So without further ado, I'm going to lead in here by introducing Georgi Kadrev. He's flew in all the way from Bulgaria to be with us today. He's the CEO of Imagga, and they're doing really innovative work in automatic tagging of images and several other applications. So I'll turn it over to Georgi.
Thanks a lot. So thank you everybody for being here. It's my pleasure. I think I was 3 years ago at the DMLA still in New Jersey. And I remember back then I said, I hope in 5 years all companies will be using AI for this automated process. This still hasn't happened to a full extent, but one of the reasons why I'm happy to join the panel as well is to help you ignite this passion for artificial intelligence. So, and just a little bit of background on Imagga. Imagga, I can say, one of the pioneers of automated image tagging. To a certain extent, we coined the term auto-tagging APIs that's now currently used almost all across industries. So we produce several kind of technologies that can automate the process of metadata generation for images. We have multiple customers among different industries. I'll mention a bit more about the DAM and the stock use cases afterwards. So, currently used almost all across the world, more than 200 business customers and 21,000 developers using the APIs. So what's the actual problem that we tackle? We believe that the metadata generation, it's a cumbersome process. It's not something that people like to do, especially creatives, but it still seems that it's something that needs to be utilized as part of the process, so these images are findable, sellable, you can get some insights that can be actionable afterwards. But it's very mentally exhausting even, especially if you need to moderate huge amounts of diverse content, especially offensive content that is becoming a bigger and bigger problem with user-generated content. Also, in the last 2 years has been produced more content than the whole previous history of digital content production, so you can see that's an exponential scale on how much content is actually produced. But the way how, let's say, human teams develop that can moderate this content or they can annotate this content cannot grow at such kind of exponential scale. The human population is growing more or less linear. Also, last but not least, it's hard to train people to perform tedious jobs in a consistent way. People are much more emotional, even to a certain extent, even if they are professionals. And if you need to change the requirements of what needs to be annotated, it's really hard. And with computers, it's not that way. You change a parameter, you change something, and the whole system starts to work and behave in a different way. So our flagship offering still is the automated tagging or the auto-tagging of images. We have out-of-the-box generic models, which are kind of generic as a tautology, but it's something that's quite useful if you have content that's more or less everyday life things. Most of this applicable to stock photography, to organization of personal photos, to extracting some statistics from social media, so we can automatically suggest multiple keywords describing the main objects, scenic attributes, and some conceptual keywords that are visually represented in an image. As you can see in this example, we also have certain confidence levels for each of those keywords, so you're not required to accept all the keywords that we suggest. Still, we are one of the most verbose APIs due to different studies. I think we are at the top 1 or the top 3 at most spot of how much keywords we can actually suggest. I know because I've been talking with a lot of people in the industry that actually having a lot of keywords might be a problem for this industry, but at the same time it's up to you how you decide to integrate and how do you decide to cut the thresholds of what keywords to accept. And again, if you use this for search engine optimization, maybe it's okay to be a bit more relaxed and liberal with how much keywords you left. If you want to do something much more strict, then you cut the thresholds up. Some kind of extension of this annotation is if it's not suggested just as a keyword, but it's suggested more or less as a positional keyword or a kind of object detection that can recognize and say this particular object is positioned at this space. This also helps improving the overall accuracy of tagging if we talk about small objects, because with small objects got lost in a big image, and if you do more generic recognition, it might be lost. The current out-of-the-box offering also include facial recognition. This can be useful in both editorial photography, where you want to recognize a specific set of people, but it might be also used in cases where you just want to automate the process of model releases or validate if the images are correctly annotated assigned with the right model releases. Last but not least, we offer content moderation, something that we are working more on. I'll explain maybe later on, but it helps especially in the case of user-generated content. So just to give you a brief math on this, 1 million photos, it's a very small amount of photos, especially in social media and user-generated content. If you need to manually moderate and annotate this will cost nearly $100,000, and it will require 3 full-time men years, just for 1 million photos. You can imagine that. As a comparison, if you can reduce this to a very small amount of keywords or moderation being applied by human and automating the whole process, the prices can go down like tens of times. So it's really a big thing. It just changes the scale of how things can be done. I won't talk too much about visual similarity search, so not taking too much time of the panel, but it's also something that's very useful because you don't need a specific vocabulary or rules how to keyword the images. You just need to match them on visual criteria, something that I still see it's not very well utilized in a lot of use cases where it can be actually useful, and I'll be happy if I am able to kill some of the skepticism that you have about this. So these technologies are very easy to use. They can be used both in the cloud, on-prem, or even on the edge in some cases. We have already several, I can say pretty significant customers in the DAM and the stock spaces, but we would like to see more because we believe that these technologies, the whole mission of our company when we started, it was like initially a hobby startup project at my living room, but we're believing that technology should help in the automation process. That is just like an additional side job for the creative process, and we would like to see this more and more utilized both on the tagging and the visual similarity search space, have more interaction with people and actually using and learning from the specific set of criteria that the creatives or the whatever context requires specific kind of keywords. And last but not least, with this user-generated content, maybe you've heard as well in the previous sessions as well, it's kind of more and more typical to have user-generated content, but you have a lot of problems that are not solved there, as the one with moderation, in general with metadata generation. So yeah, this is the things that we would like to help happen together with you.
Fantastic. Yeah, and we use Imagga's products, and you really can. They have a developer plan. You call it the hacker plan, where you can sign up, and for free you can immediately start to send images. So within probably 45 minutes, if you have a development team, you can start to experiment with these auto tagging technologies. And I definitely would encourage you to do that.